Hello, welcome back to my craft room. In this video I'm going to talk to you all about the Snowflake Splendor suite, which is probably my favourite thing in the new mini catalogue. Mind you, I've got quite a few favourites, but anyway, this is really beautiful. So you'll find it on pages 36 to 38. There's quite a lot in the suite and it's all in the most beautiful colours. So without more ado, let me start to show you what there is. So there is a stamp set. It's lovely. The images on the box are only shown at 70% and I'll show you them stamped out in a minute. So they are actually much bigger than they seem. The snowflakes have a sort of a watercoloured effect to them. So in some places the ink is very dense, in others it's much more patchy. And there are some lovely sentiments as well. There is a coordinating die set and I've got mine stored on magnetic sheets as usual, but there are a number of snowflakes. Some of them cut out the stamped images, some of them work independently, and some of them cut out apertures rather than actual shapes, and I'll show you what those are like as well. I think it's just so much easier to see what something's like when you see it all stamped out. So this is the Snowflake Wishes stamp set. I'm hoping if I lift it up and bring it close to the camera, yes, I think you can. You can see sort of here and here, you can see some of the variations in the density of the ink on the stamping. It will depend a little bit how juicy your ink pad is as to how much variation you get, but it is intentionally a patchy kind of image. I particularly like these little groups of snowflakes here and here. These are really useful. They're lovely for the inside of a card, but they're also really useful for filling in gaps. And I'll show you a card where I found this one in particular very useful in a minute. So that's the snowflakes. This is all the sentiments stamped out. Hopefully you can read those, so I won't go through and read them all. But unusually, I think I can see an occasion where I would use all of these on my crafting, with the possible exception of being Happy Hanukkah, because I don't know anybody that I would send that card to, but it's nice that they have included that. And of course, the stamp set and the dies are available with a 10% saving at the bundle price. I usually advise you to go for a bundle, not always, but I usually do, and this one I definitely think you can get so much more if you have the dies as well as the stamps. Let me show you the dies cut out. So these are the separate snowflakes. So if I bring back in the image sheet, and if I can fit them in side by side, hopefully I can. So you have a die for this snowflake here, for this little one, for this bigger one here, and then the other ones cut out independent snowflakes, if that makes any kind of sense. You don't have a matching stamp for these, but it will cut you some extra snowflakes, and these are so incredibly detailed, they're just beautiful. And then the two where you use the negative space more than the positive are this one here. So as you can see, it cuts out, using this die, a frame with little snowflake extensions into the frame, as well as these little snowflakes, both little sort of starry ones and little dotty ones on the edge. And you've also got a stitched border. There we go. And then the other one cuts out a snowflake from your background, giving you some really nice peek throughs, and I'll show you a card where I've used that in a moment. And then on this last sheet I've actually stamped and then die cut the snowflakes where there is a corresponding die, so you can see how those cut. There's just a little white border around them, and these shapes just dropped out of the die with absolutely no problems at all. For this one, I did find that I needed to poke a few of the little tiny bits of confetti out of my die, but it cut beautifully. I would recommend that when you're cutting these shapes that you add some of the adhesive sheets to the back of your card, because it makes sticking them down so much easier. That's what I've done with mine. You simply peel one side of the backing sheet from the sheet of adhesive, stick it to the back of your card, and then die cut your card as normal. And then on the back of each shape you can just peel back the backing sheet, and then you've got adhesive over the entire shape and you just press them down. It's so much easier than trying to use little dots of glue on them, even if you use the fine tip glue. And some of these, particularly on this frame, some of these little lines are just so fine, and it makes sticking them all down so much easier. These shapes would be fine to use some liquid glue on, because they're quite broad areas on there, but for the others I reckon the adhesive sheet is definitely the way to go. And my other suggestion is that you definitely make sure that you have a foam mat to do your stamping on. These are photopolymer stamps and they need a little bit of extra softness underneath them when you're stamping. These mats are not in the catalogue as it's printed, although with subsequent printings they will be added in, but they are available, and if you don't have one and need one, just contact me and I can give you the details. They're under £5 and they'll last you practically forever, so it's a good investment if you enjoy stamping. Let me show you a few other bits and pieces that are in this suite. I've shown you the stamps and dies. There is some super sparkly glimmer paper. The colour of this is balmy blue, and if I just tilt it, I'm hoping you can see just how much sparkle there is on that. It's lovely to use if you hate glitter. There we go, I've been rubbing that quite hard. Nothing is coming off on my fingers at all, so you will not find that you're wearing glitter for 3 weeks after using it. You won't find it all over your carpet or your table, or anywhere else that you wouldn't want to find glitter. And just the tiniest little piece of this can really lift your project. I've used that on some of the cards I'm going to show you in a moment. I'll also show you the patterned paper, which is really gorgeous. The colours in this are just a little bit different. We're used to blues and silvers for snowflakes, but the colours that feature here are balmy blue and Coastal Cabana, which is a really beautiful turquoise, Highland Heather, a very soft purple, Misty Moonlight and Night of Navy, which are darker blues, Pacific Point, which is a bright blue, and Pool Party, which is quite a soft greeny turquoise. So really interesting colours. They're all double-sided and you get 2 of each pattern in the pack, so 12 sheets of 12 by 12 paper in all. So this one has got lots of the stamps watercoloured on here, and in fact the snowflakes are exactly as you see them in the stamp set, just at a different scale. On the back of that one we have this absolutely stunning watercolour wash. Let me turn it around and see if I can show you all of it. It's so lovely. So this is literally watercolour that's been laid down on paper, and then water has been spattered on it and other colours as well to give you this absolutely dreamy piece of paper. It's gorgeous. This is possibly my favourite in the whole pack. Next design is a watercolour wash background with more snowflakes, this time with more variation of colour in the snowflakes. And on the back you've got a different watercolour wash background with white snowflakes, so again very attractive. You have a sheet with much larger snowflakes. This is blues and turquoises and a sort of a spattering in the background. And on the back of that is another version of the first one that I showed you, this gorgeous watercolour wash. It's really beautiful. I don't know if you can see bits like here, for instance, you can see that it was printed from an actual watercolour painting. Then we have more large snowflakes in brighter and darker blues, and on the back of that is another watercolour wash. This one I think has had salt sprinkled in it, to give you that lovely effect where the salt takes up the watercolour, and when you brush it off and it's dry you get left with these very sort of organic looking white patches. Then we have a similar colour but with large and small snowflakes, and there's some white in the background. I'm hoping the camera will pick that up, some white snowflakes. And on the back of that is, this is probably my second favourite, this really pretty watercolour wash but with tiny snowflakes in white on top of it. So pretty, and this works really well on smaller scale projects. And then lastly a really vivid snowflake all over pattern, and on the back again quite a lot of snowflakes but against a watercolour wash, which again I'm not sure, I think that's had water dropped on it rather than salt, but again you have these beautiful bursts of white against the colour. So the paper is just absolutely stunning. Now if you've had a catalogue pack from me, you will have had some of these little sequins in it. These are adhesive backed, which means that they are really easy to use. Adhesive backed snowflakes is what they're called. I do think of them and use them as sequins. So there are 2 sheets, and your pack's got 260 of these in all. And there are 2 sets of colours. I'll tilt them in the hope that the light will pick up the iridescence. So this one is sort of pinks and yellows and peaches, and then this one is more blues and greens, although there's also some pink and some yellow in there as well. But they are actually quite different. I think you can see from there that they are different, but they're absolutely beautiful. Really lovely. And having adhesive on the back just makes life so much easier. Also in the suite are these blue adhesive backed gems. So this pack's got 120 of them in, which is plenty. And again, they come in 2 different colours. You can see I've used one already. So here you've got a paler blue, again with iridescence on it, and this side is a much darker blue with iridescence. You've got them in 2 different sizes, and they're self-adhesive on the back, and I think you can probably see from the sparkle that these are faceted, so they're really eye-catching, but I don't know, subtle as well. Subtle but eye-catching. There we go. That's my description. The ribbon in the suite is really beautiful. This is called Snowflake Splendor ribbon. Let me put that on something dark so you can see the colour a little bit more. There we go. Again, going with the iridescence, this has got a really kind of silvery green with hints of pink iridescence. It's quite a stiff ribbon. This will be absolutely beautiful tied around boxes, but you can also tie a bow in it with no problem at all. Let me just show you that. My favourite thing to do is to tie a bow on camera. Well, there's no going back if it messes up, but I think we're all right. There we go. Tighten those loops. So you've got to be quite determined to tighten the loops because the ribbon is a little more springy than usual, but it does tie in a bow perfectly easily. There we go. And because it's quite stiff, you can actually open up the bow loops and it will hold its shape really nicely. So that is the Snowflake Splendor ribbon. There's another couple of items which do work really well with the suite, which I will show you, and although they're not on those pages, they are really nice. There is this absolutely gorgeous metallic mesh ribbon. So this is silver thread held together with clear threads. If I lift it up, I think you can probably see, and then if I put it down on the dark, you can see that the clear kind of disappears and leaves you with the silver threads. Again, I've used this on a project I'll show you in a minute. It's got this kind of wispy, ethereal look to it, and it's so pretty. It's not actually on the page with the Snowflake Splendor, it's in with the Halloween things, but I think it's perfect with this suite. And then also not on these pages, but still in that same mini catalogue, are these little sequins. These are returning. We had these last year. They sold out twice, I think. These are the Snowflake Sequins. If I scatter a few there, you can see them. They're beautiful. The little round sequins are iridescent. Some of the stars and the snowflakes are plain white with a little bit of a sheen on them. But they're gorgeous snowflakes. They will work with all kinds of projects that you do with snowflakes and snowy colours. I don't know if I can get those back in the box. No, I probably can't. That's probably something to leave for later when I'm clearing up. Let's move those across. So those are beautiful. There is also a really lovely embossing folder, and I'm waiting for mine to arrive. Here, the Winter Snow embossing folder. I'm just going to lift that up. So you can see again snowflake images which you can emboss on card in your die cutting machine, and they will be absolutely beautiful. There are some lovely projects in the catalogue, so don't miss these. I do think it's really nice to have a good look at the project photographs, because they can give you all kinds of ideas that will then pass you on to more ideas. I find that I often start off thinking, oh, I'm going to make that card, that's lovely, and it's not that card at all by the time I've finished, because my imagination has taken over. So let me show you some of the things that I have made with this suite. So here's my first card. This uses the die that I showed you that cuts a snowflake out of a piece of background so that you get left with the negative. And I'm going to lift this up so it's a little bit close to the camera so you can see that. I've put behind it a piece of that gorgeous balmy blue glimmer paper, and I've actually added an extra snowflake on the top. I think I've stuck it down so well I can't pick it up to show you, but here we've got an extra snowflake which I've added on top, along with one of those really lovely blue adhesive backed gems there. This is some of the patterned paper, the one with a little tiny snowflake pattern, and then I've used one of the image stamps here to do a sentiment banner. I just curled that on one side in the middle and on the other side at the end with my bone folder, and then hopefully I can show you on the back there I've actually put two dimensionals, one on top of the other, just to hold that bowed shape up, so it's just got a little bit more interest there. And then inside I've used this lovely little grouping of tiny snowflakes which I really like, and of course it echoes the ones in the paper. It's exactly the same shapes. Here's another one where I've used some of the glimmer paper, and this illustrates what I was saying about you don't necessarily need a lot of the glimmer paper to make an impact. So I've cut some snowflakes from it, actually from just some scrappy pieces I had. I made sure I backed this with the adhesive sheets. I've tied some of that beautiful ribbon across the front. Again, you can see that it ties nicely in a bow. And underneath that, I've stamped a line of snowflakes. So I've got stamped snowflakes, I've got die-cut snowflakes. And then the Thinking of You at Christmas sentiment is from a set which is carried over from last year called Itty Bitty Christmas. This has got lots of really nice Christmassy sentiments. Some are long for banners or for punched labels, and others will work in round or square punched shapes or die cuts. So it's a really handy set, and the scale is quite good as well. As you can see, that's big enough for me to use on the front of a card. Inside I've used a stamp from a new set which is called Wrapped in Christmas. This has got lots of different Christmassy images. I know it's going to be really useful. I love some of the fonts in here. That one's lovely for colouring in. So this Christmas Blessings to You and Yours is the one that I've chosen to put inside with the other group of snowflakes stamp. This one here is really just stamping. I took one of my large circle dies, laid it on the card and drew around it in pencil just to give me a circle to work with, and then I have just stamped the various snowflakes in various colours around the circle and then rubbed out the pencil line. This little group of snowflakes was really handy because I then just stamped it wherever there seemed to be a gap, and that was really my kind of snowflake wreath done. The stamping in the middle there is also from Itty Bitty Christmas. It's this one down at the bottom. And I added some of those little adhesive backed snowflakes, the little sequins I showed you at the beginning, plus some rhinestones. And then I've used some of this beautiful metallic mesh ribbon just to tie around it. I didn't want to hide what was underneath, but I did want to add something. And so that's just so light and delicate over the top. When I stamped these, I did think about my colours a little bit, and this is a tip generally when you're stamping something like this. Use your lighter colours of ink for the larger shapes, in this case the larger snowflakes, and as your images get smaller, turn your ink colours darker and darker. So my smallest shapes, these little tiny snowflakes, I've done in my darkest colour of ink, and that then means that your whole wreath is balanced. If I'd done my largest snowflakes in the darkest colour, those would be jumping out at me, and I wouldn't be noticing the rest nearly so much. So you get a much more balanced look if you work that way. Largest images in the palest colours and smallest images in the darkest colours. So that's my top tip for colouring. And then inside, the words are from the same stamp set, and again I've used the two groups of snowflakes just to decorate the inside. And then finally, you can't have Christmas cards without a shaker card of snowflakes, can you? And that shape is just calling out to be die cut and then used as a shaker card. So if I hold this up a little bit, you can see I've used a piece of that beautiful watercolor wash paper in the background. This is the die which die cuts a sort of a negative image. I've used some of the self-adhesive snowflakes here, and the sentiment I have heat embossed using white powder, and then I've just cut around it. I've seen this look on ever such a lot of projects recently. It seems to be one of the in things people are doing this year, and I do rather like it. It just adds a bit more interest than just stamping it on a label or a punched shape. If you haven't made one of these cards before, they're very straightforward. Start off with your white layer and die cut it. Cut a piece of window sheet which is big enough to cover the whole area that has apertures in it, and then with a little border, and attach that behind the white layer using multi-purpose glue. That's my favourite, but you could also use Stampin' Seal Plus. Then I have that upside down on my desk, so I've got the card layer and then the acetate layer facing up. I put foam tape all the way around the outside here. I say foam tape, it's not the right name for them. What I really mean are the foam adhesive strips. Here we are. That's these, and these are long strips of 3D foam tape, this one that I've started to use. So I just lay these strips all the way around, and if I need to join two pieces, then I just make sure that they're absolutely butted up together with no gap between them. And then that forms almost like a little wall on the acetate, and into the well in the middle I tip my sequins, and then I take the backing off the foam adhesive and put my back layer on. So you're kind of working from the front to the back as you make this up. So in this case it was the paper which I stuck onto the adhesive strips, making sure that it was face down so that the design I wanted to show was stuck against the adhesive strip. And that then makes a little shaker unit which you can then attach to your card. So actually much easier than you would think. So that is my final project. I hope you have really loved seeing the suite. I just think it's so pretty, and I think, well, what's Christmas without snowflakes, really? Now, I promised to talk to you just a little bit about the Christmas extravaganza. I promised you a sneak peek, in fact, so I'm going to put down the information here. So your sneak peek is that you will get the Snowflake Wishes stamp set as part of the class. The tuition for it, which will be via videos, I'll post on YouTube, and I will send out links to YouTube for everyone who takes the class. They're unlisted links, so you will only be able to see them if you take the class. They will post on Saturday, October the 24th, which hopefully gives you plenty of time to make your projects and then decide if you want to make more of them in readiness for Christmas, and you still have time to order the items and then get crafting to make in time for Christmas. I'll be sending the kits to you by post, and the teaching, as I say, will be via YouTube videos. There will be 6 projects. You'll also get some treats sent to you. You'll get a ticket for a free raffle as well, and the last day to book that will be September the 19th. Now, I'm still finalising the last few details, including the cost, but I will send all that out to you if you're on my regular classes mailing list. If you're not sure about that, or if you don't think you are on that list, just let me know. All my contact details are on my Facebook page and they're on my YouTube page, so just let me know and I will make sure I send you the information, which will be ready fairly soon in the next few weeks. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the project I've shown you. I hope that I've tempted you just a little bit by this absolutely beautiful suite, and I also hope that I've interested you in my Christmas extravaganza. There'll be lots of crafting there, loads of inspiration for Christmas, and even if we can't meet to do it together, it will be really fun to know that we're all crafting the same projects. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.